Alright, well, hello everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful week. I just came off of 2 weeks of vacation to Branson, Missouri, and then St. Louis, so a couple of weeks. It was really nice. Boy, I tell you, there's some great motorcycle riding in southern Missouri around the Branson area. Wonderful. St. Louis, not so much. But in between Branson and St. Louis, there's some great motorcycle riding. Low traffic. Really nice. Well, I am on today my 2014 FJR 1300 ES, which stands for electronic suspension. And I tell you what, this is one of my favorite ST sport tours ever made. Now, Honda had an ST 1300. That was a great bike. I had one of those when they were making them. And then Honda tried to make the VFR 1300. Didn't have a whole lot of success, but that was a great bike too, actually. I had a 2007 anniversary edition VFR, which was 800, I believe. And that was a great bike too. Now the 1300 series or class of motorcycle kind of takes that sport touring and leans it more toward touring. You know, this has the saddlebags, it has a longer wheelbase, it's a heavier bike. You know, it has this big windshield in the front, which I have I believe that's a V-Stream, and love it, love my V-Streams. But this is the oldest bike I have, and it has 12,206 miles on it. I bought it used. Interestingly, I bought this after I bought my Goldwing, and 21 Goldwing, and I like the color, the red color. But to be honest with you, I'm probably going to be, maybe next year, selling this and getting the BMW, what is it, the RT 1200? 1300? Something like that. Similar bike, it's an ST. But you want to diversify a little bit, and I like BMW motorcycles. So most likely going to be not trading it, but I'll probably sell this and then go buy one of those next year. But I love this bike. And it's very comfortable. So I'm going to give you a little riding impression of this bike and talk a little bit about the FJR series. Well, the FJR Yamaha has been around for a long time. In fact, they haven't really made a whole lot of changes in this bike. Now, this is a 2014. In 2016, they added the slipper clutch, which, if I end up keeping this bike, I will convert the clutch to a slipper clutch. It's the exact same components will fit in this bike between a 2014 and 2016. And if you get all the parts and do it right, take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to do. And it's a great little upgrade for this bike. But even without that, this bike is very comfortable. I have a Corbin seat, front and back, on this guy. Very comfortable seat. Now, interestingly, when I bought this bike, the previous owner had the extended heavy-duty trunk bracket added for the larger trunk that you can get, the Yamaha trunk, which I believe is GB, but it's branded Yamaha. And I couldn't put the back seat of the Corbin, the passenger seat, on it. And I was like, what the the heck, and I realized that what happens is when you add that bigger bracket, it kind of changes the open space underneath the passenger seat. So much so that anything but the stock seat won't fit without removing that. Now, I wasn't planning on putting the big trunk back there. Now, the guy had it airbrushed, the bracket, so it was the same color as the bike. It was really nice. He did a lot of mid-range touring with his wife, so they wanted a bigger trunk. So anyway, I ended up converting it back to the regular platform, the stock one, and I was able to put my Corbin seat on it. I don't plan on having a passenger on this bike very often, but I did want a seat that matched the front seat, and I did pay for the rear seat. So, but Corbin seats I really like. There are a lot of other brands, of course, but I'm not sponsored by them. I like their seats. I've got a Corbin seat on every single one of my motorcycles, and they're great. The Corbin Street V-Stream windscreen. I also got the aftermarket Yoshimura exhaust that is actually designed for this bike. It actually says FJR 1300 and has like a badge on it. And increases the sound decibels a little bit. But it looks a lot better than the stock exhaust, so I'm glad that that's on it. And then I've got the rock form mount, of course, which I have on most all of my bikes. Other than that, this is a stock bike. Last year, got new tires, new battery, oil change, which is right after I bought it. So, this bike is awesome. I'd love for this thing to have a 6th gear, which I think the newer ones do. But I'm okay without it. It just revs a little higher, and, you know, the gears, you know, don't have a lot of room for this kind of riding. I'm on I-94 headed north out of Illinois toward Milwaukee. I'm actually going to just zip by the Harley Museum. Nothing really going on there right now until tonight. Pretty cool that the Harley headquarters is in Milwaukee. You would think it would be in a, or they would have moved it. Maybe originally it's great because of the founders living up here, but it would be great to have it down in an area where they could do things all year round there. But I'm glad it's close. It's fun. Thursday night, they have their bike nights every Thursday during the warmer months. And they have live bands and different things going on. It's pretty nice. Anyway, I'm just taking a zip up there because I haven't ridden in a couple of weeks because of my vacation, and thought I would ride the FJR and give you guys a little bit of a review. So the FJR 1300 is a sport tourer. You know, it's in between kind of the Goldwing crowd and maybe the Ninja 1000 crowd. I have the Ninja 1000. It's right, it lives right in the middle of that. If you saw my video on the Versus 1000, I put that in the same category as this bike. And even though it's a 1000cc, it basically has the Ninja engine. It's not a 1300. But it feels a lot like this bike as far as its comfortability and mid-range riding. So, back to the FJR. This is a great bike, very comfortable. The peg and seat position, I would say, is very similar to like the Ninja. You know, it's not a relaxed position, I would say. It's definitely leans a little more sporty, but not too bad. You know, the Versus is a little more relaxed in that dynamic. The Ninja might be maybe a half an inch tighter. I'm not sure, but it feels good. I could be in this position for a couple of hours, you know, in between gas stops and resting. Very comfortable. The handlebars, these are the stock handlebars, come up to a really good position for me. I'm 6 foot tall, 32-inch inseam. I weigh about 250 pounds, and I feel really good on this bike. The suspension, it's the electronic suspension, which really just adjusts the preload primarily. There's also some adjustments to other things that are electronic. You get an aftermarket windscreen like I have and a good seat, and you're good to go. Now, through the camera, you're probably looking through the screen. I'm actually looking way above it. Now, I can raise it, like that. Give myself a little more protection. Now there's less wind hitting my head. I don't mind the wind noise. It's not that bad. But now you're really looking through it. In fact, I'm actually looking through it. Unless I kind of straighten up my back, then I look just over the top edge of the bike, or the windscreen. But I love these V-Streams. They're really good. If you're looking for an aftermarket windscreen, get the touring one, the taller one. They have sport ones that are pretty good too. And this one is slightly tinted. So the price point on this bike is actually pretty decent. For what you're getting, even the new ones are pretty good. I believe, 15, 16K new? I don't see a lot of these for sale. People hang on to these bikes for a long time. And I can see why. I mean, they're very comfortable. This bike has 12,226 miles on it as I ride it right now. And it feels brand new, honestly. Although the shifting is broken in, which I really like. It takes a couple thousand miles to break in shifting where it becomes real smooth for bikes. And this is well broken in on that. It's got a pretty new set of tires, and man, great bike. Okay, who is this for? This is for somebody who wants a great all-around bike. This is one of them. I love STs. I'll keep up with sport bikes for the most part. I'll keep up with tours for the most part, big tours, like the Goldwing and such. I mean, yeah, I don't have all the extra stuff and the GPS and all that, but I got a RAM mount here and a mount for my phone. I can put a GPS on it and I'm fine. If you want a bike that's going to kind of do everything except off-road trail riding, if you're going to do some dirt riding, this definitely isn't your bike. This is a great bike for all kinds of street riding. You want to take it to Tail of the Dragon? It'll do it. You want to take it to Sturgis? Sure. Make it happen. This is kind of a no-nonsense bike, right? It doesn't have a lot of the electronics and all that kind of stuff with the big bikes, and like I said, GPS and radio and all that kind of stuff. So if you want that, this is on your bike, but nowadays with Bluetooth and good headsets, you can stream right from your phone and you're good to go. You want to ride around town or do long distance, this is your bike. Really, it is, honestly. It's a great bike for that kind of thing. Easy to maneuver. The saddlebags that come with it have plenty of room. I don't know that I could fit a full-size helmet in there, at least not an XL. But it's good if you want to take a weekend trip, man. You got 2 saddlebags. If you're going to bring somebody, I would, and that's going to be kind of a regular thing for you, maybe add a trunk, a small trunk. You add a bracket to the existing bracket on this bike, and then you can put a small trunk on there. GB has some good trunks for it. I think you can get color matched too. But if it's just you for a weekend, 3 days, yeah, just pack light, jump on this bike and hit the throttle. Okay, who is this not for? If you're gonna put on some serious miles and you're gonna be on the highway a lot, I'd get something else. I'd get a bigger bike, honestly. You know, Honda Gold Wing or the big BMW or Harley Indian, you know, something like that. Much better, I think, for those long distance rides. They're not so good around town because they're heavy and maneuvering is kind of crazy, but this is not a high mileage heavy duty bike. It's just not comfortable enough. Can it handle it? Sure. Sorry. Scratching my nose. Can the bike handle the miles? Sure. But the body on the bike, I would say if I was a shorter person, maybe, like I'm 6 foot, so if I were like 5'9", you know, where my body is more stretched out because I'm not crammed, I have a little bit shorter legs, maybe, actually. You know, it'd be one of those reasons to like being shorter. That and flying and coach. But for me, 6 foot tall, nah. If that was going to be my primary goal, is to ride those long distance trips, I wouldn't get this bike. So who is this not for? Okay, long distance trips. If you want to do some heavy sport riding, you want to lean more sport, don't get this bike. Get the Ninja 1000 or that what is that GSSX, their sport tour. You know, has a couple bags, a little more upright position, but definitely leans more sport. Or get a sport bike. This is not a sport bike. It plays one on TV every now and then. But if you're really going to push it, this isn't a bike for you. You're going to work hard on this bike. And it's heavy, 1300cc. I would say if you're going to get a 1300cc and want to tour but really want to push it, maybe get the Busa. Or maybe the Concourse, similar bikes. Get one of those. Okay, so this isn't your all-in sport bike. If you're going to do any kind of trail riding, you want a bike that's going to kind of do good on-road and off-road, like the Versys, which I have. This isn't your bike. This is definitely a street bike. You know, if you have to ride a trail to get off the street to get onto something, okay, sure, fine. Any bike can do that. But if any part of your riding is going to be on trails, this is not your bike for that. It isn't. I'm going to cruise up a little bit. I was getting in a pocket of traffic that I wasn't very happy with. Just trying to make some progress here on the highway. I want to get off the highway as fast as possible. Who else is this not for? If you just want a kind of a simple bike, you know, I said this is a good all-around bike, and it is, but I wouldn't get it if you're going to be kind of an around-the-town rider full-time. You know, you're going to go to work, you're going to go hit the local pub. You know, I'd get something that's more like a kind of a neoclassic bike, or you know, something like that, like the well, shoot, there's several manufacturers that make them, but like the Triumph Bonneville is kind of an example. I'm actually thinking about getting one of those next year as well, or maybe the year after. You know, those kinds of bikes where you can just strap on a bag and you're kind of around town. You're not really going to do more than about 25, 50 miles at any one point. This isn't your bike for that. It really isn't. If you're going to lean more towards short rides, don't spend the money on this bike. Get something a little cheaper, maybe a smaller engine, 800, 900, even 1,000, you know. Get something smaller, get a Harley Sportster or something. You know, that's really a good bike for for that kind of stuff, because you know the cost point isn't there. You're going to spend the amount of money unless you get a used one. You're going to spend money on this bike, and this is a touring bike, and you're just going to be puddling around town. And you're going to put on maybe 3,000 miles a year on the thing. Get something smaller, get cheaper. Unless you just love the look of the bike, and then get it, you know. That's just my recommendation. For a guy who has a lot of different types of bikes, this isn't your bike. It's a heavier bike. It takes up a little bit of room, so make sure you got some strength to you to be able to move the bike around your garage, and you got some room. You know, this isn't a scooter. You know, it's a it's a bigger motorcycle, and you know, not nearly as big as the big tourers like the Harleys or the Goldwing, but yeah, it's a little bigger. You know, it's bigger than my Ninja and my Ducati. So, you know, but the cool thing is it has a center stand, which is nice, so that you can store it upright. So it's not leaning, which is nice for working on it, but also for getting it into tight spaces. You put it up on the center stand and it's upright, so it's not, you know, taking up more space because it's leaning, therefore it's leaning over the kickstand and a little bit harder to maneuver it. So the center stand is nice for that. Make sure you have some room to store it. You know, with the bags and stuff, you don't want to be running into it. These mirrors are pretty wide, which I actually like. But, you know, even in my big 2,000 square foot garage that only has motorcycles, I run into it sometimes because I've got bikes close together. I have my friends bring their bikes and I need to squeeze things closer together, so I'll run into it. This bike is great in slow speed and high speeds. So again, you know, if you're gonna be riding around town, it's great. I don't know, I wouldn't buy it for that. Now, if you're a multi-bike person, and I haven't really talked about this in some of my other reviews or talking about bikes. Back in the beginning, I had a Goldwing, an ST 1300, and a VTX 1300. So I had a touring bike, an ST, and a cruiser. This is a great bike in that kind of scenario where you've got kind of a big tourer, a Harley, or a Road King, or Ultra Limited, or Road Bod, whatever, or a Goldwing, or the big BMW. And maybe you've got a cruiser too. This is a great middle of the road bike to have. It really is. You know, if I had to get rid of the 8 bikes and I had to keep 3 of them, you know, if they're saying, hey, you got to go from 8 to 3, you know, whoever that would be. This would be one of the bikes I would keep. Honestly, I would keep one of the big bikes. I would keep this. And probably on the smaller bike, it would either be the Ducati X Diablo or the Ninja. On the big bike, I would, you know, I mean, that's hard. It would either be between the Goldwing or the Ultra Limited, honestly. I wouldn't, out of the 3, I wouldn't keep the Road King, as much as I hate to say it. I'd keep the Ultra Limited or the Goldwing, this bike, and either the Ninja or the X Diablo. Of the bikes I own right now. But if you're somebody who has means and has a place to be able to keep the bikes and loves the opportunity to choose between a couple different bikes, this is a great middleweight. It really is. Or bikes like this. Even the Versus, I would put that in there, right? Like I said. So this is a great middleweight bike. So if you're a multi-bike owner and you want a big touring bike and you're like, what 2 other bikes would I get? Get something like this, or even look at the FJR as the bike that you would buy as your middleweight, and then get something smaller, either a small, you know, sport touring bike or a cruiser, or, you know, like I said, like a Triumph, or, you know, something like that for your smaller bike. And man, you've really got every choice you could really make. Like I said, unless you're going to do dirt or trail riding. So I don't want to drag this on. I'm just giving you my thoughts. This is a great bike. Go check out the FJR. Reasonably priced. You know, BMW has a similar bike, but you're going to pay more for it, and the dealer network isn't as big. So be careful. You know, you're out on the road somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and you have no BMW dealership. But you're going to find Yamaha dealerships. They're pretty big. Not as big as Honda, but who cares? You know, if you're not going to do super long distance, you're going to have some Yamaha people nearby in case you have to deal with an emergency and maintenance or something. The newer ones, like I said, the 16 or newer have slipper clutches, so their shifting is a much better experience than what I have here. But if you're looking at an older one, you can upgrade it if you want. Like I said, this bike has over 12,000 miles and it's running like it's brand new, other than the shifting, which is broken in. I love this bike. So check it out, Yamaha FJR 1300. I would definitely go with the ES, the electronic suspension version. The colors are okay. Last year, I think the 21, they had a dark blue. I'm not sure. I think now it's a gray, or maybe now it's the dark blue, and last year was the gray. You know, they don't offer very many colors. You know, that's one of the things I don't like about this bike, is you don't really have much of an option on colors. But if you like the current color, or find a used one with the color that you like. I like this red color, which is why I bought a 2014. And go check one out. You know, if you're going to do some more touring, get yourself a trunk. Get a new seat. The seats suck. I'm not a fan of the stock seat, or put something on the seat, or, you know, that kind of thing. And go cruising. You know, there are LEDs now in the front, so the LED lights show a lot of light. The rear lights are okay. You know, they're typical kind of sport bike-ish lights. They're not very big. There are actually things you can get. You can mount some lights to the luggage, to the saddlebags, that are really nice, LEDs, to add a little more light in the back. That's cool. You can do that. And, you know, a better windshield, you're good to go. I mean, really. You really don't have to do much, and there's really not much you can do, honestly. You know, if you get the ES, you're not upgrading the suspension. You might be able to upgrade the front suspension a little bit, but, you know, if you want to get a K&N air filter and maybe up the airflow a little bit, get an aftermarket exhaust if you want a little more sound. You know, but other than that, really not a lot you have to do with this bike. It's great, as is. So check it out, Yamaha FJR. The 2014 is great. But if you get a 16 or newer, you get the slipper clutch already in it. And some slight improvements here or there. But again, if you want a good middleweight bike, if this is your only bike and you're going to do some mid-level touring, this is your bike. Great. Get a trunk if you need to, and you're good to go. Anyway, that's my riding review. I might do a garage review and give you a closer look at this bike up on my lift sometime soon. But until then, enjoy the ride. Keep the rubber side down. Be safe and enjoy. Take care.